This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of the world-famous Comedy Cellar, available wherever you get your podcasts, available on YouTube, and available on demand at Sirius Radio. This is Dan Natterman, Comedy Cellar regular-ish, with Noam Dorman, the owner, proprietor of the ever-expanding Comedy Cellar, the New Room, the Comedy Theater on 6th Avenue, opening hopefully sometime in 2025. Periel Ashenbrand is here. She is a producer and on air.
She's open year-round.
We also have with us, making, I think, his debut on the podcast, Aaron Berg.
Hello.
From the great city of Toronto.
Originally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Toronto, Ontario. He's got tour dates coming up. You can find all those on aaronberg.com. That's aaronberg.com.
Thank you.
Where are you touring to?
Well, I'm going back to Toronto. I'm going to Ottawa, and I very rarely go to Canada. I'm not a big fan.
Are you an American
Canada.
citizen?
I'm an American citizen now.
Dual loyalty. You have 3 loyalties now: Israel, Canada, and America.
I'm a pretty hardcore American. I got a Dodge Ram. I'm a registered Republican.
Oh wow!
I went in. I'm balls deep.
Gun owner?
Now. Yeah,
Are
multiple guns.
Okay.
I was going to bring one today because I read about the subway stuff, but then I was like, I shouldn't do that. And what?
Didn't you also take the bus in?
Yeah.
Free.
The bus is much safer than the
Right,
New
but
York
why do you need a
subway.
gun about the subway stuff if you're
I don't
on the
want to
bus?
get lit on fire while Alicia Keys sings and the police stand by.
You took the bus to, I guess, Port Authority.
Oh, yeah.
And then you took the subway here, right?
Yeah.
So you did have to take the subway.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But not for very much.
No, the bus doesn't stop at the cellar. Noam hasn't arranged that yet.
Now,
Actually,
what was
Not
your
for
decision?
you.
You normally drive in, but your decision to take the bus was motivated by
I'm going to
congestion
tell
pricing?
you a little something not a lot of people know about. There's been murmurs of this. There's a thing called congestion fees now. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
what do you think of that?
Not a fan. There's a guy on Twitter that is covering his license plate with the middle finger, and he drives through, and he's this very rambunctious Italian man, and he just stops in front of the cameras, and he gives the finger to the cameras. I wouldn't drive in today.
Well,
I'm
my question-
canceling all my city spots now. I'm done.
Is that true?
No.
Oh.
But I canceled one on Monday. It's not, unless I'm coming in to really make money on a weekend, I think I'm going to come in less.
It's $9.
So much money. You know what spots pay.
Still, though, that's ridiculous.
Actually, she'd have to get spots to know what they pay.
Well, it's only it's $3 after 9 p.m., I believe. But if you drive in before 9 p.m. and leave after 9 p.m., is it only a one-way charge?
One way
Yes.
charge. One way charge. It's
So
once a day. But here's go ahead, Dan.
So if you're coming in before 9 and leaving after 9, you're paying the full charge.
Yes.
Okay.
But here's my question: do you think you will eventually just relent? And
Yes, I'll start eating it. It's part of living in New York.
You will start eating.
And then you go, why do I live in New York? There's no point to this. And then you're like, oh, because I do 20 spots a week. And that's the only reason.
So you're gonna go through the grind of trying to avoid it for a while.
I'm going to
and then you're
hope
like,
January 20th he gets in. He's like, it's done. Congestion pricing.
I don't know if he has that kind of power.
Yeah, I don't believe he has the authority to do it by executive order.
Donald Trump's middle name is J, which stands for Jesus, and he can do whatever he wants. I don't know where you're getting your Republican rhetoric.
He'd have to get I believe he'd have to get the Congress behind him in some way. And listen, I'm the world's biggest hater of congestion pricing. But I don't know if it really is something that the federal government ought to be able to put a stop to. I mean, it does have interstate ramifications, so maybe I have to hear the arguments. But I hope he gets rid of it. Purely.
I hope so too. I think people just chalk it up to New York being a dump. And it's just one of those things that goes on top of New York being a dump. And they're like, people get stabbed on the subway. You got to pay extra to drive in now. Everything's so expensive. I think it just is the ramifications of New York being called a dump.
And he does have to hurry for 2 reasons. First of all, once the city gets used to that revenue, or the state gets used to the revenue, whoever gets it, it's going to be very difficult to undo it. Number 2, I'm all up in arms about this. You don't even know, really up in arms about this. But after 2 days of zipping into work, as I have the last 2 days, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to.
So the traffic's not bad.
Oh my God!
Well,
it was awesome.
Assuming that continues.
What?
Assuming that continues, then then isn't that a good thing?
No, it's an outrage. It's an outrage to so many people, nurses, teachers, people who bought a car, who moved somewhere for a good school system, whatever it is. They're stuck with this house, this car.
Can they do what Aaron did just today? He drove to the bus stop.
Some of them can. Some of them can't. Some of them have to drop off their kids
and then
school.
go to the bus stop.
No, come on, Dan. You're putting people through a tremendous problem. And some people are old. Some people don't want to walk in the freezing cold. Some people live in bad neighborhoods and don't want to walk. Some people do a late shift, get home 10, 11 at night. They pay the thing, and then they have to walk home 6, 7, 10 blocks from the subway system.
But
it's crazy. It's such a.
Well, you're very on fire about it.
And what makes it most
very
despicable
Yeah.
is that this is coming from the Democrats, who supposedly care so much about the working people. If Donald Trump...
Well, the working people, most working people take public transit.
Most is not the point. If Donald Trump instituted any policy which had this kind of impact on black people, Hispanic people, nurses, how could he do this? He's heartless, whatever it is. They want the revenue. They don't even tell us what the metric is. And I'll say one other thing.
I'll tell you what the metric.
People are saying it's a success already, right? You've heard this?
I saw that. Yeah, well, you did. You said traffic's down.
Yeah, let me tell you this. They wanted it to be, it's $9, right?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be $17.
Yeah.
They would. So how do we know that $5 wouldn't have made it? Like they would at $17, it would have said it was a success. At $100, we'll have plenty of room on the.
We don't know. We don't know. It's
don't
not.
know.
But
We
we
do
also
know
don't.
this.
We don't know it's a failure either.
Well, the point is that if it is a failure, unless they get rid of it right away, they'll never undo it. Just like rent control. Rent control. People love the market. Dan, how you like your rent control apartment, Mr. Free Market? Mr.
That's not even relevant.
Oh, not even relevant. You know why it's not relevant? Because you get the advantage of the rent control apartment, and you don't give a shit. And you're talking about other people. You don't drive. That's the only difference. You don't fucking drive. But you love your rent control apartment. You fucking hypocrite.
Well, I never said I had a rent control apartment.
Of course you have. Tell me you don't. Of course you do. It was an emergency measure in the First World War, rent control.
Yeah.
We love the market. It's free market. Let supply and demand control. These people, these fucking city council people, they don't drive. They hate cars. They live in rent control apartments at the expense of their landlords. They're so fucking full of shit.
Yeah. Spoiled.
Well, you wanted to know what the metric is to how.
Tell me if you live in a rent control apartment or you're done for the rest of the podcast.
I don't live. Rent stabilized.
Okay.
It's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
Point is, he's not paying market rent, but all of a sudden he's all about people should pay the market price of riding on these roads.
You know
it's such nonsense.
Yeah.
You know who's really up in arms about all this? Or the fire department is enraged about it also.
Heroes.
And,
yeah.
And you know that people who live in rent control apartments, you know what that means? Less housing. This has real ramifications. People don't build because it's insane. It's insane.
You wanted to know what the metric is for how would we qualify it as a success?
Nobody will tell us.
I'll tell you the metric.
Yeah.
The metric is if New Yorkers are happy with it,
including the rich. Include the rich.
Say 70%. 70% of New Yorkers are happy with it. You qualified that as a success?
No.
Why not?
For the same 70% reason I won't qualify NAFTA as a success, because aggregate is very easy to say a majority like it, but when you drill down to a subgroup of people, hardworking people who are being disregarded.
But the majority of New York is not rich people.
To say that
70% is a large majority.
A majority of people will say it's working for them if it doesn't cost them anything, it doesn't affect them in any negative way, and they can only reap the benefits. Of course.
Well, what percentage of New Yorkers would have to say this is great for you to say this is actually a good thing?
What percentage of New Yorkers own cars also? Like, I think that's also part of it. If you don't drive, then it doesn't affect you, and you don't get a vote, right?
Go to the hospital.
How about we include...
Go to urgent care and get that nurse to take care of you, and don't give a shit about the fact that she has to pay another $200 a month to come in, but she's there for you because she's using the roads, as if we don't all benefit from the people using the roads. It's such a fucking lie. Oh, well, she's using the roads, so she should pay for it. Never mind that she's coming in to help me while I'm sick.
First of all, I don't know that particular hypothetical nurse you're talking about.
It could be any nurse.
First of all, nurses make
Any
like
nurse.
$200,000 a year.
I don't know if that's...
And...
Aaron, you're the guest. What do you want to say about this?
Yeah. Look, also, you have to look at the fact, are goods going to go up in price because trucks have to come into the city? Are they going to take that cost?
Well, if a truck can deliver more easily, time is money. If you're a truck driver, you make more deliveries, you make more money. You're
I imagine that the cost, if you have a big truck that a lot of shit there, the trucks pay more than $9. Let's say they pay $30. I don't know.
Okay.
Divided by all the goods, it might not add.
It's a drop in the bucket.
It might be. Yeah, that's my.
My
gut.
stance is similar to yours. If when I'm driving home on a Saturday and there's traffic at the Lincoln Tunnel, and sometimes it takes me an hour 10 to get home. Usually it's a 36-minute jaunt from here. If it takes me an hour 10, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's 36 minutes every night, I'm going to be like, oh, that $9 isn't that bad.
And by the way, that nerd.
But that's all. But I try to steel myself against that because it's very easy not to think about the.
This whole state is a mess.
That
Kathy Hochul is insane.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you this: New York is pretty close to going red. Give it 2 more turns. Yeah. I think 2 more turns.
You don't mean communist?
No.
That nurse,
but there's
by the way,
a lot of Trump people in this city, and you would not. 4 years ago, there were not. Yeah. If you said you were a Trump supporter in this city, people would look at you like you murdered somebody. I come to this club sometimes. I wear my gold Trump sneakers. Mind you, I haven't been here since I've done that. But I will say this. There's more support. I'll get audience members coming up after, and they're like, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Well, I'll go on stage and say I voted for him, and there's jokes around it, obviously. But a few years ago, you were a pariah if you did that, especially in comedy.
The winds have shifted for sure. And by the way, one other thing, there's this congestion pricing tracker online. On the weekend, the traffic was much less coming from Jersey. Now, that's quite dangerous. Who is coming from Jersey on the weekend? Not people working. People coming in to go to restaurants, to go shopping, whatever it is. Now, maybe, as you said, maybe like what are they're playing with fire here. Like, you're going to really make it. Why on the weekends? Why are they doing this on the weekends when people come in for leisurely things in New York City?
Saturdays are insanely busy. Coming through that tunnel into the city, I have to leave. I have to give myself an hour and a half to get into the city because everybody's coming in to go out for dinner, go see shows. Yeah, spend money.
Now, you think people would take their families and get in buses to come to New York City on a Saturday night and then go home on a Saturday night? Some kind of mass transit? It's fucking nonsense. It's reckless.
It may be that the best congestion pricing strategy would to have weekends exempted, but I want to get back to that nurse. That nurse might appreciate an extra half hour at home. You're assuming the nurse doesn't want to pay $9 or $3 if it's after hours for an extra half hour.
Okay, let's look at it this way. First of all, and then let me finish this. We know this. Before congestion pricing, people pay a very high price. They sit in traffic. They know the subway is $3, but they sit in traffic. They buy houses somewhere. They go through. So they were already obviously
I agree
showing
with
that there's not. I'm talking. There's not that much elasticity because if it was so easy, they would have already taken the subway for $3 compared to the thousands of dollars and all the time they're spending to travel by car. So we're going to just up it until they have no choice. The fact that we are seeing less congestion is proof that they can't afford it or it's too much for them. The rich people are not taking the subway because of this.
Why'd you point to yourself when you said the rich people?
so what the well-to-do? So why are we seeing so much less traffic? Because people are telling us that this is more than they want to spend. It's self-evident. Why is it more than they want to spend? Not because you say they got plenty of money. Now, maybe some people will revert. I'd say give it 4 weeks before we really have a baseline. But the fact is, $200 a month or $190 a month in after-tax income is a lot of money for people in the middle. It's a lot of money.
It's an economy car payment. You could get another car. You could be driving a Kia.
That's right.
This podcast brought to you by Kia.
And by the way, I made that point. If you look at all the cars on the road, like I took a video driving on 7th Avenue, they're modest cars. You don't see a lot of Mercedes and BMWs on 7th Avenue. These are people who, for whatever reason, need to drive.
Yeah.
The subway is $3, but they're spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on cars. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that I know people that are worth quite a bit of money that drive Subarus.
Oh, damn.
Well, I don't know how scientific an analysis it is to say that. Well, I didn't see Mercedes and BMWs, so it's all working people.
You hang out with a lot of
That may well
lesbians.
be, but people who
I'm talking about non-Jewish people here, Dan.
well, I don't know what people drive into the city. I know if I had a nice car, I wouldn't take it into the city, but
Well, of course you would. What would you do if you had a really nice car?
I wouldn't take it into the city.
Where would you take it? You would. So if you had a really nice car and you lived in Westchester,
He's
You
afraid.
would take the train
I would
to
take
the
city.
subway.
I would take the city car if I
Take
was
it
going
to
to
the
drive
Korean
it.
massage parlor.
I would
He's
take the.
afraid because he's never driven in the city. It's very daunting. If you've never driven in the city,
I have
it's
driven
frightening.
in the city. I do it all the time. 'Cause I rent cars.
Ooh,
I driven all over the world. I love it.
yeah.
Okay. Is the idea that more people are going to take the subway because they should probably do something about the fucking
Oh, we
state
didn't
of
even
the
talk about that. You
subway?
didn't even talk about that. The most immoral part of the whole thing is that they want to force people.
Yeah.
It's not like London to force people on this safe bus or
Yeah.
tube system. They want to force people on the subway where at best, their best hope is a revolting and frightening experience.
Okay.
Well, I don't know a single person who
Look,
takes the subway.
I'm
who hasn't told me about at least once a week where they're come face to face with something that frightened them or revolted them.
Mm-hmm.
And at worst, they can get set on fire.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody lives in high traffic areas. Many people have to take this fucking subway to, as I said, less populated places, late at night, in the cold. It's fucking heartless.
Well, maybe it's heartless to have your daughter driving
What
on the
was the
Hutchinson
problem?
Parkway in the middle of the night. I'd rather she take
Who
the
was
Metro.
complaining-
I'd rather
who
she
was-
take the Metro North.
Who was complaining about all that? And by the way, they want to reduce pollution. I have an idea. Why don't you charge people after a certain amount of time unless they drive electric cars?
Why don't you?
You can get zero emissions. And that would be fair to me. Listen, we're going to give you 5 years or 7 years, and at the end of 7 years, we're going to charge every car that comes that has a gas engine
But maybe-
X amount of dollars. Okay,
You
that's
know-
fair to me because at least you have another choice and you have time to adjust.
If you're going to
to
call
it.
people heartless, it's heartless maybe to have emergency vehicles that can't get to a patient because of congestion.
The city,
May-
the city streets are no less congested.
Well, you just said there is less congestion.
The commute is quicker, but once you get off, the cities are the same.
I feel like we really glossed over my subway point.
What was your
brother.
point?
We
And by
glossed
the
over
way,
all
by
your
the way,
points.
and by the way, it's not just pushing people onto the subway, which you might have a point, and the subway needs to be cleaned up. It's pushing people onto Metro North, which is perfectly safe and wonderful.
No, there was just
New
a killing
Jersey.
on Metro. It was just a shooting on Metro North.
No. We're
Thank
talking about the
God.
subways too.
I know, but I'm saying a lot.
Metro North. First of all, my town has no Metro North station.
You drive to the station. I used to drive to Old Greenwich.
We have no parking because we don't have a permit at that station. It leaves at a particular hour. It means you have to count on maybe 2 hours less with your family. You have to get up at a certain time. Then when you come home, you have to get home late. And then, by the way, when you get to Penn Station or Grand Central Station, Metro North Grand Central Station, a whole new inconvenience awaits you because you may not work on 43rd Street. You may work on.
He is correct.
It's
Yes,
a
but-
fucking nightmare
but
for
first
people.
of all, during the day, the subways, I think it's
Can
it's
you just
perfectly
admit
safe.
because you live in a fucking rent-controlled apartment on the Upper East Side and this doesn't affect you at all? I wish.
Yeah, a lot of things don't affect me.
if there were a Governor Abbott,
Look,
remember Governor Abbott said all the.
Yep.
If there were a Governor Abbott type solution to this, where
Governor Abbott?
somebody could send the migrants
him.
to the people who were complaining, who were looking down their nose at the people complaining about a problem,
Yeah.
the way the fucking liberals used to look down their nose at people in border towns complaining about all the migrants and
Yeah.
everything, whatever it is. If there was some way, just for a week, to impose this problem
Yeah.
onto the people in favor of congestion pricing, just some way that they could have to
Look,
deal with it for a month,
I've dealt
and
with
then
it.
ask them
By the way,
how they feel
I've
about
dealt
it.
with an analogous situation. The prices of Ubers, they stopped doing Uber Pool, which, by the way, Uber Pool might come back. Via might come back. But
Ugh.
when they stopped doing Uber Pools during the pandemic, I was effectively pushed onto the subway. I used to take cabs home all the time from the Comedy Cellar. I almost never do anymore. I take either the subway or, when the weather is good, I take the city electric city bike, which, by the way, is great. But be
Do you wear a
careful.
helmet?
But be careful. I don't wear a helmet.
Right. So it's great until, God forbid, you get smushed on.
But the fact is, I mean, you're right. I don't have to go home at 3 a.m.
But
but I do take public transportation almost exclusively.
I want permission to use anything that we've said today at your funeral.
At
A
my
lot
funeral,
of people get hit on bikes. A lot of people get hit. on
You're right. I should
And you
wear,
should be
I
wearing
wearing
a helmet.
But
Yeah.
but the
for
larger
multiple reasons.
the larger point is that I have been effectively pushed out of private cars because
Some people get pushed in front of subways.
and some people get hit by cars. Our dear friend James Mattern got hit
He?
by a car. So
Why?
because
Was
I
he
don't
yelling
know.
at it?
He only looked one way.
But people,
Yelling
we
at
do.
it,
There's
yeah.
a comic that got killed on a city.
Where
bike.
you driving, bubbas? Boom.
But
All right, now, let's ask you. Now, do you have a new project or something that we have you on here for? Or you're just shooting the shit with us.
I'm shooting the shit. I got 2 movies on Amazon right now. One is called First Shift. One is called Con Job. One's really funny. The other one's really dramatic. And they're both-
these are low budget films.
How much are you putting in?
I don't know. Are these films that you were involved with the production yourself?
No, I was actor in both of these films, and then I'm working on a movie with Troy Duffy, who wrote Boondock Saints. We're writing a movie right now.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's a good career.
I guess sure.
What kind of characters you playing?
Well, in Con Job, I'm a jacked up personal trainer who loves drugs. Dean Edwards is in that as well. Really fun film. And First Shift, I play a drug dealer. Crosses over some mob guys. Directed by Uwe Boll. You know that name?
No, doesn't ring a bell.
Notoriously known as one of the worst directors of all time. Makes a comeback with this movie that is straight up the middle. Not shit. It's insane.
Now, what movie did he do that was terrible?
Oh, there's a litany. And then he used to box his critics. People would go online and say, your movies are shit. And he goes, meet me and I'll fight you. And he'd meet and fight these people.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's the guy that originated this. This is like before Alex Jones started calling people out, wanting to fight them and stuff like that.
By Alex Jones. Now, but you are associated with those Legion of Skanks people, right?
I do Legion of Skanks
Yeah.
often, yeah.
I'm having a big Twitter feud with Dave Smith.
Well, Dave Smith is very controversial. I disagree with him
Is he-
mostly on Israel, but he's a really smart guy. Good debate. Have you debated him?
On this show. Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
might take issue with whether he's a good debater. Or
No,
not.
I think of course he's a good debater.
Yeah, I think he's a very good debater.
I
I've
don't know
reached
his-
out to him about Israel a few times, and then he just never responds to the
Is
text.
he? I've never seen his stand up. I only know Dave Smith as a pundit and as a outspoken critic of Israel and an outspoken libertarian. But he's a comic at least
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think
He has a special on YouTube now. It's pretty good.
yeah, and I don't
Very good.
I don't know if his stand up is as political as he makes himself out to be by the norm, but there's such a crossover with comics now delving into politics. I mean, you could say Rogan made this election for Trump, and it's like a few years ago, you remember the guy that was trying to cancel all the comics, Seth Simons, and he was like, these are not just jokes. These are, you had him
He
here.
wrote about me too. He wrote a whole article about
Oh, he used to come after me all the time.
About Me Too, the movement, or Noam also.
Noam also.
Know him as well.
No, I'm not yeah.
But yeah, he was years ago. He's like, these comics are not just doing comedy; they're doing. And it was amazing to see if there was one thing he was right about, how comedy and politics merged, and there was this big turn. And seeing Tony doing the MSG thing and stuff like that, it was. And don't get me wrong, I would love to do that. Trump's senior advisor came and watched me 2 weeks ago. And they were like, "Oh, you're hilarious!" And I was like, "I'd love to go to Mar-a-Lago." And they're like, "Come to Mar-a-Lago, we'll arrange it and all this stuff." Because I'm enamored, and I voted for the guy. This is the first time I've voted in an American election, by the way, because I'm an immigrant, and I'm going to the inauguration, and I got like special roof deck access and stuff like that, and I'm really excited. It's exciting for me. It's very exciting. But yeah, Legion of Skanks, Lewis, Jay, Dave, all great. The show is great. What they do with Skankfest is amazing.
Amazing.
I
saw them in Vegas.
Yeah.
I told Dave this when he came on. It's a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah.
What they've done.
They went from being just these 3 guys that talk dirty, and Jay was kind of the big guy in that, and everyone's like, why is Jay hanging out with these guys? And then everybody elevated because of this, and it's it's like an East Coast Kill Tony with less special needs people on it.
Well, so this is my thing. It's not. I mean, I don't like that Dave's anti-Israel, but being anti-Israel is not something that we're not used to, and with all these people dying, poor people dying in Gaza, you expect that some people will be anti-Israel. My goodness, many people in Israel are objecting to to what's going on there. So, but there's something else going on, and you know, I wonder how you feel about this. And I'm worried about my thing with Dave because I don't want it to spin out of control, and I lose my.
Is this current? Like
Yeah,
this is
it's
happening
just
right
like
now?
today? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am very concerned about anti-Semitism, and Dave has become very, very influential. Comedians, Sam Harris refers to him. It's not just in the comedy world. You know, serious heavyweights
Yeah.
are referring to him. He has Joe. Forget about Tony. It's okay. He has Joe Rogan's ear.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think he's somewhat of a Svengali, Dave. He is. My objection is that he's friendly now with Jake Shields, Candace Owens. He won't say a negative word about them. Now,
Right.
these are not people who are anti-Israel. I mean, they are anti-Israel. I couldn't care less that they're anti-Israel. I've never mentioned the fact that they're anti-Israel in any one of my conversations with Dave. These people are saying that Jews are draining the blood of Christians,
Right.
that Zionism was created to be a pedophile refuge, to create a pedophile refuge state.
Yeah, and it was just one island.
That Stalin was Jewish, that LBJ was Jewish, that Kamala Harris, like the most vile anti-Semitic things there are.
Right.
And in my opinion, he's lending them an air of acceptability and credibility by going on these shows, doesn't challenge them, hides, in my opinion, behind these arguments of, well, you know, anti-Semitism is just a label that people use to try to censor people.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's true that not just Jews, blacks, gays, my middle child, people will resort to whatever, you know, things they can to make excuses. Right. And it's true that Jews sometimes complain things are anti-Semitic. It's true that blacks sometimes use racism away, or not just blacks, but people concerning that issue will use racism as a way of tarring people to try to put them on the defensive, so they're afraid to say. We all know this is true,
right.
So they're afraid to say what they want to say. But in situations of gradualism, you sometimes do have to draw a line. So just because you think that, just because too many people saying abortion is murder at conception, doesn't mean you say, well, people say that, so, you know, let's have abortion even during labor. Or, you know, too many people are saying that, I don't know, that's something which is child porn, right? The people are using that as an excuse to shut down the porn industry. Right. So let's not have child porn as a label anymore. Let's just allow everything. Or, you know, too many people are saying that children. Too many Israelis are claiming, now who would it be? Too many people are saying that young people in Gaza are fighters. They're trying to qualify these people as fighters.
Right.
Right. So let's no longer qualify fighters. Let's just kill anybody. You know, and these are off the top of my head. The point is that at some point you have to be able to distinguish between, yes, reckless accusations of anti-Semitism without giving up your right to say, this is Nazis.
Right.
This is fucking, yes, a lot of anti-Semitism is crying wolf. But that doesn't mean we're never going to claim anybody's an anti-Semite again. And I'm going to pal around with them. And I'm going to, you know, essentially, as I said, lend the air of respectability to these people and these views. It horrifies me. And they know very well that Dave's Jewish.
Yeah.
And don't fucking think for a minute that they don't realize that it's advantageous to them
to have a Jew on.
Who gives them their kind of stamp of approval or acceptance.
Yeah, and he's not the only Jew that is on that side, I'm sure.
No, but he's the most prominent now.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about Israel.
People don't like
that's
Jews.
the point. It's that it's not about Israel. And there's a difference, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do think that this distinction is very important. There is a difference between being critical of the Israeli government and being anti-Israel. And
but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to segregate the whole Israel issue. And the point is that they always tell us being critical of Israel is not anti-Semitism.
Right.
Being critical of it, and they're right.
But there's also a huge overlap.
yes,
There's a lot, but I'm saying that fine. If you want to be the champion of the cause, being critical of Israel is not anti-Semitism. Then at some point you had to be ready to identify anti-Semitism.
Right.
Otherwise, you're the one connecting them.
So now what it is when you call somebody an anti-Semite, it's like what happened 4 years ago when you would do racial jokes or you would do satire and people would be like, that's racist. And it got to the point where so many people said, that's racist. Racist just became a term where it's like, just stop with what you're doing. That's nearly what's happening with anti-Semitism now. And it's been prevalent for so long. And now it's rearing its ugly head way more than it ever had. I mean, the 40s, of course.
Yeah.
But it's a huge thing. That being said, he's probably thinking, and I don't know how Dave thinks, but I bet he's thinking, look, freedom of speech is at the base of all of this. These people are allowed to have their thoughts. Candace can have her thoughts. Jake can have his thoughts. The same way as when I go online and I see IDF videos where they're fucking massacring people, and I get excited about it because I'm like, oh, that's payback. And when the pager thing dropped, and I was like, I got excited about the pager thing.
Yeah, but the whole theory of free speech, and I'm not asking any of these people to be censored. I even wanted to have a Holocaust denial debate at the Underground years ago. And I remember people thought I was crazy.
How would you cater that?
Kosher. It's that the principle of free speech is based on the presumption that you're going to have people battling things out in the marketplace of ideas. I'm not asking Dave to advocate censorship for anybody. I'm saying if somebody is going to talk about Jews draining the blood of Christians at Passover, and you go on a show, he will not even call it Dave will not call it anti-Semitic. He'll say, well, he has said some negative things about Jews.
Yeah.
This is making a farce of everything.
Yeah.
Because free speech is about debate. It's about clash of ideas, so the best ideas emerge. But there's a whole other issue here because these people are hip and cool and have cultural cachet, and they're very influential to people who don't read. And all they get from this is, this guy Jake Shields is not so bad. This woman Candace Owens is not so bad. Like if they were bad, these people I admire wouldn't be hanging with these guys. So they're sending a very, very powerful message that is shocking to me. It's as if David Duke was prowling around with the hippest movie stars. That would never have happened.
Right.
Well, what do you attribute that Dave's? Is he just doing this because his followers would turn on him if he criticized Jake?
I don't know.
No.
Dave
is a really smart guy. When I sit down and I talk to him, and we don't talk about Israel often. We'll talk about other stuff. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about the election.
Pussy.
I mean, it's just I know that we're going to disagree on it, and I know he's probably better read. I know I don't drink the blood of Christians. None of them will come over to Passover at my house because of the fear of it. But it's like the line for me between free speech and hate speech is that which incites violence. Is that how you define it?
Well, that's the legal. That's the legal line as well. I mean, incitement to violence is illegal, and pretty much anything else that you say is legal.
My attachment to Israel and to Judaism is primarily emotional because I was raised Reform, but I feel a pride, and I it's an emotional thing for me. It's not like, hey, here's everything I read this week. I'm going to lay out what's happening in Gaza. I don't do that. But I do know that I call it anti-Semitism when I see it. And I know my neighbor across the street came up and he's presenting this argument where he's like, why do they always call you an anti-Semite if you just say the Jews run the bank? And I go, because it's an anti-Semitic thing to say. Do you not understand that? And
I mean, unless of course the Jews do run the banks,
I think China
Which-
runs the banks at this point.
Look,
which they do not. But
what?
well, I'm just saying the Jews run the banks is not in and of itself anti-Semitic, unless of course the Jews don't run the banks, and you're implying that they do, and that they do it in a nefarious sort of a way.
Then there's this whole thing about the Jews are behind everything now. 9/11. Did you hear this?
Yes.
Congestion pricing, I've heard Jews are behind.
Candace Owens has said that.
Yeah.
And she's also said that the Jews are behind killing John F. Kennedy.
Really?
Yeah.
They're also saying that the Jews are behind the wildfires in California today.
Look.
I'm serious.
Yes,
they
and
are.
I'm sorry. There's just no way I can process what's going on here.
I think you need to talk to Dave about this.
He won't come on the show now. He came
Why?
once before because this is I don't
Have you
know.
gone on his show?
It is what's that?
Have you gone on his show?
No, I've never been invited. So
Wait,
It's
what's
called Nazi Talk.
what's your beef on Twitter right now? What's going on
you
Twitter?
can go on Twitter.
Look, I don't know that
about
there's
this.
anything in it for Dave to come on this show, because he's going to get what's in it for him. Why would he come on?
We had it. Well, he could stand up for what he believes in. So we had an incident in the comedy community years ago. I don't want to mention the guy's name because I don't want his crazy fans coming.
Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, but a guy we know and we liked to some extent. It really exposed some really vile, racist behavior and talk.
Was it me?
No, it wasn't you.
All right.
And I may have mentioned this once on the show, but I did not publicly do it. I cut myself off from that guy. I didn't let him do any shows in the club. I wouldn't want to go on shows that he was associated with. I knew how. First of all, I felt it in my heart, and I also knew how black people, comedians, were pained by the fact that so many people just pretended this guy wasn't saying this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is beyond that. These people are talking about Jews, Christian children disappearing on Passover. Now, first of all, there's a whole other aspect to this, which is forget about the fact that it's anti-Semitic or about Jews. Why are you wasting your time talking to somebody such a fucking idiot? Like what is it beyond the audience?
The audience.
You're a serious guy. You want to have serious conversations. Let me go talk to the guy who thinks that dogs talk and and people levitate. Like it's unless you're talking to him because you want to make a farce out of him, you're talking to somebody, or you think that reasonable minds can differ about whether Christians are really being drained of blood.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting your time talking to a fucking idiot?
Well, you could say, why are you wasting your time tweeting at Dave Smith all the time?
Why are you wasting your time talking to Aaron
Oh,
Berg?
no. Like, you're tweeting at Dave Smith, telling him, please come on,
Because
for the same reason, because he's influential.
No, because he's influential.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's why you're talking to Jake
I'm
Shields.
fighting for a cause.
Right. Okay.
I understand very well that the comedy community is aware when I go back and forth with Dave Smith. And I don't want this fucking stuff spreading either in the comedy community. In a certain little way, I feel like I have some leverage at a certain somewhat significant bottleneck. I don't kid myself to think I'm going to change the whole tide of things, but it's something. It's at least something pops up in people's brains that I've made such noise about this. Because I want to fight. Yeah, I'm Jewish. I want to fight against anti-Semitism. But I also want to fight against bigotry, which is the reason that I didn't do what's-his-name's show all the time. Some things are fucking wrong. So, at some point, things matter. How many people have died in history fueled by this kind of stuff, by ideas, lies, hateful ideas about other people? We're pretending like, oh, this is just playtime. It's not just playtime. And it's not about criticizing Israel. Criticize Israel based on the facts. Fine. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's tough to hear. It's tough to, it's not pleasant to hear your side trashed or, God forbid, lose an argument. This has nothing to do with Israel. Israel didn't exist when these arguments were invented.
That's right.
These are arguments that existed 1,000 years ago, before Zionism was even conceived of.
Yeah.
This has nothing to fucking do with Israel. These are the ideas that made Israel necessary. It was the byproduct of these ideas and their results in the world, which made the Jews desperate, which fueled the pogroms, which fueled the Holocaust, which is why we feel we need Israel. It's a fucking lie to say it's about criticism of Israel. And I don't understand that you think this is something. This is not fun and
what
games.
did I say?
You say, well, if he's doing
because I'm trying to explain.
Why are you doing it? You don't see the difference?
Because I'm trying to explain to you why Dave is going on Jake Shields' show. Because Jake is influential, and because Dave is fighting for a cause, a bankrupt cause in my estimation. That cause being his anti-Israel cause.
Dave doesn't need to go on Jake Shields.
Well, he's going on Jake Shields, so I am telling you why I think he's doing so.
All right. Well,
not defending it, but there's a reason he's going on Jake Shields' show, and that reason is Jake has influence, and Dave is fighting for his bankrupt cause.
There is a real Overton window shift in this country because nobody should be going on Jake Shields' show and bashing the Jews. No more anybody should be going on David Duke's show and bashing blacks and say, oh, there's fucking affirmative action, huh, Dave? Yeah, fucking blacks. This is not the way people who have respect for themselves and care about certain things. This is not libertarianism. It's not what libertarians believe, that nothing matters. It's all fun and games and showbiz. Libertarians believe in the importance of ideas. Libertarians believe in the importance of ideas so much that they don't want to ever take the risk that somebody's idea is squelched because it could be right. But that doesn't mean they don't believe in debate. Doesn't mean they don't believe in bashing. I mean, he'll bash a neocon. Right, he'll call a neocon names.
Yep.
Right? No, that's what he thinks he's supposed to do. He's fighting for what he believes in. But then turn a blind eye to someone who says that the Jews are draining Christian blood? This is fucking outrageous.
It boggles my mind how somebody that's Jewish could believe that.
You're right, but I hate to say that because nobody should feel that. Nobody should do that. No, I mean, unless you believe that as a non-Jew that, maybe this is possible. Let me hear him out. Fine, hear him out. But obviously we know there's no there. There's no fact there's no like little known argument of there's no basis to this.
It's an aggressive sect of anti-Semites, and they're becoming more prevalent. Most of them are real soft-spoken losers. Like when we did the Stand Up for Israel shows and people would come out and protest, I'd yell back at them. So it was me, Judy Gold, Voss. You did one in New York that we did, and they'd come up and they'd go, they just stop killing children, stop. And they had a megaphone, and I go, stop raping women. And they did not know what to do when confronted with male aggression. They did not know how to come back at it. And now there's this whole brand of, Jake Shields was an MMA fighter, and it's like, these other people are very adjacent. Candace Owens is a very aggressive woman, very alpha woman. So now these people are having this trickle-down effect where laymen are going to believe this shit.
Yeah, but shouldn't the intellectual anti-Israel movement, of which I will call Dave Smith a prominent member of, shouldn't they, if they're really operating in good faith, completely separate themselves from the non-intellectual Nazis?
I mean, I guess
yes, but how many times do I have to say most of these people are not operating in good faith?
Well, okay, well that
I mean, how many people do we have to have on the show? And I won't name names.
Define good faith, and then I can tell you whether I agree with you.
It means when presented with thinking of a very specific person, presented with the opportunity to have a conversation with a expert from the other side.
Talking about Norman Finkelstein?
No, I'm not.
Whatever.
I'm happy. I'm only not saying who it is because
John, you can bleep this out if we need you to? I guess, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I'm talking about Aaron Mate.
Okay, go ahead. You can talk about Aaron.
Who said that there were no women, Israeli women, to corroborate the eyewitness testimony that they were raped on October 7th. And I said, it's hard to corroborate that you were raped if you're also killed.
Yeah.
And then he said whatever he said. And then we said, well, how about we find someone who we all agree is an expert? Because I mentioned Zaka and they said that he said they weren't reliable. So
what? Aaron refused to do it?
He totally fucking disappeared.
I don't think Aaron would refuse to do it.
Well, I have about 3 emails.
Anyway, your
that do
larger
not
point.
I'll email him.
No, and so I'm saying, and Finkelstein fits this bill as well.
Except Finkelstein would not be caught dead. Would not be caught dead being obsequious or kind to somebody talking about the Jews draining Christian blood.
Whatever. You can split hairs if you want. It's the same category for me of this is not operating in good faith. This is fucking bullshit. And I can't.
No, so I don't agree.
Seriously.
I actually don't agree with you.
You don't agree that saying that you're going to have a conversation with an expert on the rapes and then just disappearing that's good faith? That's like you're really going to have a conversation? It's bullshit. You don't actually care. You don't actually want to know if people were raped. Because if you did, you would show up for that conversation.
Well, let's see if he really won't show up to it.
Well, hi, Aaron. I've sent you 4 emails and I haven't heard from you. And we'd love to have you back on the show.
Yeah.
And also, has anyone here tried Christian blood?
Of course.
Anyway, I would like to go on record and say that, I'm very proud of you. I think it's a very honorable thing that you're doing. And I'm proud of you, too, because you've been a very loud voice.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
Although I am curious about your love for Mr. Trump.
I thought you were going to say about his fur jacket.
I like his fur. I dig
Awesome.
it.
Well, some people are very against fur as well.
Well, it's not. I think it's a faux fur, right?
No, that's rabbits.
Wait, are you obsessed with Trump because you're enamored by him for real, or were you always like this?
I'm going to explain to you, when immigrants move here from another country, especially a third world country like
Canada.
You love America. I fell in love with the idea of America since I was a child. I always wanted to live in America. It took me 10 years to move here, $30,000. Had to get like O1 visas, green card, and then you move here based on the notion of America as I grew up on it, which was Reagan's America. So you have this love affair with it, and then you just start seeing what happens. You start seeing the effects of extreme liberalism, and you're like, I want someone to change this. And then like when they shot at him, that was exciting afterwards. The RNC was excited. I mean, when he got up and he said, "Where's my shoes?" It was hilarious. And then the RNC was exciting, watching our childhood heroes like Hulk Hogan run. All that was missing was Scott Baio. And then, and some of this is facetious, of course, and then I watched the DNC, and I was very impartial, and I was like, oh, they seem really excited over Kamala Harris. This could be really close. And then watching him run away with it was like, oh, Americans get it.
Now, but I think it's interesting that you're from Canada. We can certainly understand why somebody from a third world country would love America, but somebody from Canada, which is a great country, okay, you say it's not, but why did you dream? What is it about America as opposed to Canada that made you dream, other than the better weather, the more temperate climate?
There was some, I mean, doing stand-up comedy, there was definitely a glass ceiling in Canada about how far you could get, especially being a dirty comic. And then there was this appeal of New York. This place was here. Cringe humor was there. There was this stamp of approval that you could
Well, America's definitely cooler than Canada.
Sure.
But
Canada,
how is it?
Canada's going through a swing right now. Trudeau's, resigned, quote unquote.
I mean, America is there's just more going on here. But in terms of freedom, and somebody, do you see a difference between that
They arrest
here
people
in Canada?
for speech violations in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, there's human rights tribunals there was people that did stand-up in Canada, and they would do crowd work, and they weren't good stand-ups, but they'd be like, look at these lesbians, and, used a lesbian slur, and this guy had to pay like $80,000. He was like an open mic comedian. There's definitely freedom of speech here. There's freedom of the marketplace, and it's just more exciting. And I feel like I love where I came from, but Canada's gone to, when you go back to Toronto, it's not the Toronto I grew up in. And you could just
I never
be
left
like,
Toronto
insane
myself.
What's going on there right now.
I should just say about Trump, whenever I hear anybody, and by the way, some of my closest friends in the world make you look like you're middle of the road, on Trump. Like
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people who just adore this man.
Sure.
I'm not with you guys because the guy is so erratic. So
You're a loser, Gnome. You're a loser. You're a fraud. I'm going to call you loser, Gnome. You're a loser.
I'm low energy.
Can't even fight Dave Smith. He's a loser. He's a loser. What?
He's so erratic, so
Sure.
kind of dishonest. There's just so many things about him that
He's entertaining, but
but having said all that, there's no question I lean in his direction on
Sure.
most policies.
Most policies, like we should take Greenland tomorrow.
and
Wake up, Gnome.
And I was very happy that he came out on in favor of the H-1B visas.
You like the H-1Bs. Doesn't sound too much like Hebe to you.
It sounded a lot like you. I recognize that there are arguments on the other side that are legit in terms of using it as a way to pay less, so to avoid hiring Americans. I mean, I don't want to be stupid.
My diehard Trump friends hate the H-1B thing.
but
They're divided over it. But yeah, I think highly skilled people should be able to come into this
in general. The
and
notion,
pay congestion price.
and page the notion that there could be tremendously talented people who want to come in, and we don't want to let them in.
Right.
In numbers that would help the country. This smacks of a kind of ethnocentrism, bigotry.
Do you want to say fascism?
No, not fascist.
but what if they were all Hasidim that wanted to come in?
Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near the levels of with H-1Bs. We're saying, well, it's such a wave of people that we have to think about the consequences of integrating them and things like that. We're talking about a relatively small number of people who are punching way above their weight in terms of the benefits that they can bring to this country. It's really weird to me that people don't understand. You look at almost any industry, it was started by some immigrant, H-1B type of a different era, that came in here. Maybe they just came because there were no rules at the time.
Yeah.
But this is where the country has grown from, is smart people from other countries.
Is it worth asking ourselves the question, why aren't there as many homegrown people that are at this level?
I think there are, but I think they're just saying, let's bring in other people that can help out. But there's also this thing that was happening in Silicon Valley where they were bringing in these immigrants, and then they were claiming that they were making $200,000 a year, but it was a service that was placing them in these technological jobs, and then the service was taking the crux of the income and paying these people
legit.
$40 an hour,
That's
which is basically human trafficking on a higher level.
Whatever you want to call it. That's a lie, and I'm not in favor of the lies. I'm in favor of actually bringing in super talented people that are not easily found at home. Or also,
well, you're lucky I'm here today.
Well, did you get
also just to take them from the other countries? It's not just about what they can do here; it's about not letting them do it there.
Yeah,
this is important
because then America wins.
Yes, Steve Jobs was a Syrian.
Well, he
right?
was born
That's
here.
a really good pitch.
His father.
When you're like, we're stealing their best, that's how it should be worded for Republicans.
Stealing their best.
We're stealing their best. We're bringing them here.
yeah,
America
right.
first.
I'm pretty sure Jobs was born in the United States to a Syrian biological father.
Yeah, but at some point, I'm saying that it's someone who didn't want these people in here would have meant no Steve Jobs. Let's not go crazy with this stuff. We are a nation of immigrants, and my biggest beef with the immigration thing has been A, the disorder of it. B, at a certain level, it just becomes so many people at one time. Add ingredients, stir. Like we need to stir to allow some kind of assimilation. Otherwise, you have pockets that just become unto themselves, like the Hasidim.
Yeah.
You don't need
but they'll never in all likelihood assimilate.
Right. So I wouldn't want millions of Hasids here, right? So I'm worried about that. And number three, there is an anti-American cultural element that we see within immigrant communities.
Yeah.
That really does worry me. I don't know if any of these apply to the H-1B issue.
We hope not.
Yeah. If it does, then I would have to reconsider. But to me, and Trump instincts are a businessman's instinct. He knows, like, these are talented people. These are not people sneaking over the border. These are not leeches on our taxpayer. They're not. These are people we should want in this country.
Yeah, it's a good pitch.
If we believe what we say we believe about not caring about skin color and race and all this stuff, and we believe then that people are people. And that, that...
Of course, a lot of people don't.
Other countries have white people,
What's that?
Other countries have white
Other
people.
countries have white people.
Yeah.
Well, and
But the H-1B, the tech people, I think there's certainly a disproportionate number of people from, I guess, India.
But what does crack me up about this whole H-1B debate, although I don't have the examples, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The same people who are so in favor of the H-1B visas are the very same people who are outraged that the colleges can no longer distinguish based on race for admissions.
Yeah.
It's fucking hypocrites, right? Oh, we have to take them. It doesn't matter where they come from. But once they get here, we don't want too many Indians or Chinese at Harvard.
Yeah.
It's like, they make it up as they go.
The Chinese had it tough at Harvard for the last couple of years.
Yes, they did. Thanks to Trump. Thanks to Trump, they can be treated as people now.
Yeah.
When you were trying to get your citizenship, did you have an artist visa? You had to prove that you bring somebody to the table.
Yeah,
He married this is after gay marriage, right? He married a busboy.
Well, he
Actually, in New Hampshire, we opened up an antiquing shop. I had to you had to collect. First, you had to make noise. So in Canada, I started at Yuck Yucks, which was a chain of comedy clubs. Mark Breslin, you'd love him. You guys would get along very
Jewish,
very simpatico. Yeah, very like a Canadian Bud Friedman type character. He's got his own booth at the back where it says reserve. No monocle, but very short guy, little Hugo Boss suits, custom fit. And you had to make noise. So it was like, I did like a one-man show about when I was a stripper and a gigolo and all this stuff, which was very...
Wait a minute.
Now you tell us as the show's ending, you were a gigolo?
Yeah.
We gotta get him on another...
Yes.
For how long?
Oh, we got 10 minutes just to talk about that.
Year and a half.
Used to bang women.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Just...
Okay.
Well, were any of them attractive?
Let me undress while I do this.
Fuck, don't you do any research on, I guess?
No. So I was a bodybuilder. I went through a breakup when I was 20 years old. Melissa was her name. Loved this girl. Her ex-boyfriend was this bodybuilder. And I was like, maybe if I'm a bodybuilder, I'll get her back. So
now, what was your physique like prior?
Scrawny, little schlubby Jew.
Like my physique?
Almost as bad. And so I started working out, started doing roids. Right away, within a year and a half, won my first contest, 1994, Mr. Toronto.
Wow!
Lightweight, within a year and a half, there's still pictures of it around. I had hair, I was gorgeous, fake tan, it was great. And then as a bodybuilder, you're like, okay, I can do two things: be a bouncer or be a stripper. So I tried bouncing, but I had a philosophy degree, so I'm just sitting there reading Kierkegaard while people walk in, and I'm way too short to do that. I'm 5'6". So I go and I start stripping. I was training at this gym where all these strippers, and I go, I want to do this. And they're like, okay, here's this guy, call him up. I call up, I go do like an amateur night stripper thing, dressed as a construction worker, went out, made like $200, had a three-way with these two girls, and I was like, this is the best job in the world.
No, I'm space.
And then I started...
I don't even care if they're Nazis. Go ahead.
And then I was stripping in Toronto, this place called Fantasy Male Review.
Oh,
and
my God.
you would start. It was like a comedy club. You had to do Wednesdays, Thursdays. If you got good enough, you would get weekend spots. So I worked my way up to weekend spots. I'm on roids. I'm looking great. You go fully naked, by the way. So you have to masturbate, tie an elastic around your cock and balls, go out, and then on the third song,
the roids shrink your balls too, right?
Yeah, but you don't fuck with balls, no.
Okay.
So my balls are tiny now. I'm on testosterone replacement. So I would go out. My mom came one night to watch me. This is the most Jewish mom thing. She brought my aunt, who was like a famous cookbook author, and they snuck in. I told my mom, I go, we strip. We don't go naked or anything. Sure enough, she shows up. Go naked. I go over for dinner the next night. She's like, we came to watch your show last night. You're very talented. And at that point, you're like, Mom, you're supposed to intervene and say, don't do this. Anyways, I'm stripping. Sundays were gay night.
Wait, slow down a second. Why did you have to?
We have 10 minutes left.
Can you stop interrupting?
No, I want to understand why.
Because you can't show soft cock. So if I go out and I show my soft cock, which is only 6 inches, I can't just do that. You have to get hard and then tie an elastic around it
That keeps you hard.
Keeps you hard. So the women
Like
see
a
it.
cock ring.
A cock ring, but you use an
Wait,
elastic.
6 inches soft? You serious?
I'm joking.
Okay.
And so Sundays you would work gay night, whether you wanted to or not. So there was this crew of guys I work with. One was this.
He says that to kind of imply that he didn't want to, but he wanted to.
Yeah, it was great. The money was great.
That was how he met your boyfriend for the antique
and then I got
store.
married. It was, and so we would. There was this Russian homophobe named Wolf, and he was like, "I hate these." I'm going to say a word you have to bleep. Can you bleep it? I hate these goddamn faggots. God made them wrong. They're a mistake. I hate to be here. Why they make us work this? And then he'd go. He's like, "I don't let these touch me. They have AIDS." Like it was that type of belief that he could catch AIDS by being touched. And then he went on to buy a club in Dallas called Le Bear, which is the most upper tier male strip club in America. It's still around. He runs the place. There's a documentary on Amazon about it. So we're gay nights, and then from there there'd be guys that'd be like, "Will you come back to my place and do a private show for me?" So you go back to their place and you would jerk off in front of these dudes. And they'd pay you $150, and so
That's it?
it was 94.
Fair enough.
And then there was like you would have sex. Women would come up and be like, "I want to go out with you." And the club owner taught you have to tell these women your time is worth money. You can't go out with them unless they pay you. So girls would be like, I want to suck your dick," and I'm like, "I can't go out. The club doesn't let us unless." She's like, "I got $50." I'm like, "Okay," and then. Literally, and then I was banging this Russian mobster's wife, and she was $300 a get, and she'd just come back to my place, and she'd be like, "Come on, fuck me, fucking good." And then
How old
Weren't
was,
you
how old was
worried
she?
that?
I was 23,
No,
24.
how old was the Russian mobster's
40,
wife?
45.
But weren't you worried that he was going to find out and
Sure.
like, kill you?
Yeah, but you're smoking weed all the time, having the time of your life. It was amazing. And then there was one girl. This was on my 1-year anniversary of working at the club. I never had sex with somebody in the club. This girl gets 3 dances from me, $60. She goes, "Come on, fuck me." And I go, "I can't fuck you for $60. And I go upstairs, and I'm like, "The girl wants me to fuck her." And they're like, "Go fuck her. What's wrong with you? You gay?" And I go, "No, I don't want to get fired." They're like, "Go fuck her." And I go, "Come on." We go. My friend gives me a condom. I put a condom in my sock because you're just wearing socks, shoes, and a G-string. And I go, "Come on." And she goes, "I don't have any more money." I go, "Don't worry about it. Come on in." Grabs my dick, slides it in. I know the condom's there. I know I'm supposed to grab the condom, but I'm so taken by the moment. I slide in. I'm telling you, 2 pumps. Just, it's so wrong, so beautiful. The biggest load I've ever come in my life inside of this woman. Balls deep. Balls deep. I do a couple more pumps so she doesn't know I came that quick. And I pull out, and she goes, "I'm so glad we did that." And I go, "Why?" And she goes, "I'm getting married tomorrow." And I was,
So another man is raising your child.
we don't know that. But it was just this moment where you're like, oh my God. You know how they say like men are pigs? The women that you would see in this club were insane. I'd go naked. Women would come up, grab my cock, try and yank it. We had a female security guard. She grabbed this girl and threw her down the stairs. She was a cop, the woman that got thrown down the stairs. And she's like, "I'm a cop." And she's like, "You just grabbed his dick, motherfucker."
Why haven't you made a screenplay out of this?
That's what I'm working on with Troy Duffy right now. Oh. And I had a one-man show that I did, and it was an hour, and I did it for 7 years. When I first moved here, I'd do it on stage all the time, and it was murdering. And I was like, this is a perfect HBO hour. I didn't have the right connections at the time, so I let that material fall by the wayside, and then I started doing the comedy that I do now. And now I'm like, I got to bring that stuff back because it's so.
Oh, you
now,
are 100%. Like immediately.
Well, is there something you're not telling us? Now you're saying
let's get back to congestion pricing.
No, the
Why are you hard, Gnome?
the women were begging you to fuck them, but certainly some of the men were begging for that as well.
Yeah.
And the question I have is, how far did you go with the men?
I jerk off in front of dudes, and that was it. There was like a very.
You're saying no
fine
man ever
line.
sucked your cock?
No man ever sucked.
$1,000 you wouldn't let the guy suck your cock?
No, they'd grab my nipples sometimes. Men would grab my nipples
So were
as
the
I
men
jerked.
But you're
more
telling me-
respectful
That
than-
doesn't count.
Were the men more respectful than the women?
Yeah, and the money was great. They just sit there. You could smoke cigarettes back then.
But they probably knew
Well,
you were straight.
I would imagine that the reason men are more respectful is the same reason that women can hit cops. There's no repercussions. When a man is out of line, he gets his ass kicked. When a woman's out of line,
Possibly.
that's not the threat.
And then I started pimping a girl, and that was
God.
the end of it for me. So there was this Muslim girl fell in love with me. I had a 4-way: her friend, me, and my friend named French Kiss. And so I slept with her. He slept with her friend. Then we swapped. This was very common back then. 3-ways, 4-ways. We'd do everything. And then she came by the club a couple days later, and her friend goes, "She loves you." And I go, "Oh, that's great." And she goes, "No, you were her first. She really loves you." And this girl was 21 years old, came from this great Muslim family, and I didn't know what to do. And I had this friend named Johnny Thor, still around. He's like 65 years old, still bodybuilds, was a crackhead, was a pimp, still around. Can get him on the phone if I want to. And real gruff voice, he talk like this, been through it, been to jail, seen him in jail. And he goes, "B, this girl loves you." And I go, "Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to date this Muslim girl." He goes, "B, you got to fucking turn her out." And I go, "What do you mean turn her out?" He goes, "B, you got to fucking make a living off this chick, turn her into a hoe." And I said, "I don't know how to do that." He goes, "I'm going to fucking show you how. You got to tell her fucking your time is worth money. She wants to fucking be with you. She got to fucking support you. She got to pay for your condo. She got to pay for your roids. Got to pay for your gym membership, pay for your car." I go, "How's she going to do that?" He goes, "You make her strip." So I took this girl, took her from this great family where she was like a A+ student, was probably going to go to college. And I made her start stripping at this club, and she would give me all of her money, and she'd be like, "When are we going to move in together?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll put her in this motel." And then I started to feel really bad about it because it's not a good thing to do. So I ended it. And I went back to college. I went and finished my degree in philosophy. I left. I moved provinces. You know, it's like if I lived here, I moved 3 states away or whatever. Finished my degree in philosophy, and I was very inept. I had no social skills after stripping because you're so used to being objectified and sexualized. So at that point in time, I couldn't date women. I would hire prostitutes, and this would be one a month. They were $120. I'd get them out of the yellow pages. They'd come over and smoke. I'm sorry if this is disturbing. I'd smoke weed.
Now you're sorry if this
and sleep with these prostitutes who would fall in love with me because I'd answer the door. I was glistening. I had dreads for a while. It was a very odd time. And then I figured, okay, this is done. I went back to Toronto, started doing stand-up. And about 4 years in, I'm at this bar show, and my friend comes up. He goes, "There's a girl at the back, real hot. She says she knows you." And I walked to the back, and it was her. And it was like I'd seen a ghost. And she goes, "You remember me?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "You fucking ruined my fucking life." And I go, "What are you doing now?" She goes, "Porn." And I go, "Well, we all make our choices, right?"
If you tell me what I think you're going to tell me,
What?
keep going.
And she goes, "You look old." And I said, "Huh?" And that was it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's Mia Khalifa.
No, I thought you were going to say you at least gave her the money back that she gave you
No.
from stripping.
No. And I've talked about this story before, and there's no way to track these people down. This was all before the internet. So Johnny Thor's still around. I still talk to him, but none of the other people I can reach out to. I have no idea what happened to her.
Oh, you know her name, don't you?
Just her first name. Don't know her last name. You
All right.
okay?
Well, we will cut out the F word. Because we don't want anybody to be bothered by what they heard. Can't have that word out there.
Are you okay, Noam?
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
But I've spent years of my life attempting to cleanse my karma.
Yeah.
Because I have a daughter.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll be really excited to listen to this episode.
How old is she?
22. Now she's 7. But
let's hope this stays off TikTok.
She doesn't have a phone.
I clip this out.
We have to go.
At some
I'm having
point-
dinner with Rabbi Wolpe.
Are you really? At some point, she'll probably, she knows that her father, like most people, is a flawed individual. Or,
Yeah.
Yes, like most people. Yeah. Say, yeah, my kids say the same thing about me. Listen, to be perfectly honest, I don't judge this kind of stuff. I think that I don't know how bad your karma is.
No one is admiring this
No,
story.
no, but my feeling is very much that the people that we know about who have done bad things, who are forthright and admit and discuss the bad things they've done, are then judged by other people who have also done bad things, who have also known people close to them who have done bad things, who are just full of shit hypocrites.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying if you could go back in time that maybe something you do differently, but that was,
I
that's what
do
you did.
think, depending on your finances, you should cut this chick a check.
You didn't use physical force to hurt anybody. You didn't.
No.
You didn't. It's a seedy, sybaritic environment,
What's sybaritic?
like in a sexually charged environment. How did this girl first come to you?
She came to
There's
the
an
club.
odd turn of
wanted to
phrase.
fuck me and my friend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
She was asking for it. That's what Noam said. Asking for it.
No, I'm saying you didn't pick her up on at
a Greyhound
as a
station.
runaway as a Greyhound station.
Just got here from Albuquerque, huh? Nice guitar.
She went there looking for something to
Yeah.
scratch some kind of itch, and she found it. And this developed as it did. Now she's going to blame you, but that doesn't mean it's actually your fault.
Yeah.
I would still cut her a check.
I mean, I
How
don't
much
know
would
where
you
she
cut
is.
her a check for?
Well, it would depend on my
That's very
finances,
Well,
But
your
if I would,
finances
at
are
a
with
minimum,
them right now.
at a minimum, what she gave me from her.
Are you
from
bearing in mind I have a car and there's congestion pricing?
Well,
Yeah, but maybe she.
I am.
I know you should. I don't know if he's kidding. You should not cut her a check.
No. Thanks.
And listen, you're dealing with a lot of stress from this years later too.
I mean, that's the first time I've kind of talked about it and gotten emotional about it, where I've felt it hit, and I've told this story a couple times, but I feel like it's because now it's in my life because of the script, and I think I'll start talking about it on stage.
Well, you could at least give her like a thank you in the end of the movie.
Why don't you do it?
Listen, if we could find
That's free.
her-
That's free.
No, I mean, I said you.
No, I don't want to find
No, I
it.
was saying you're dealing with stress too, which could sound like I'm minimizing it, which I'm really not. My point is not to minimize anything that anybody does that's bad. My point is to say that this is part of the human condition to make mistakes like that. But if you could find her, Periel, it would be very interesting to have her on the podcast.
Jesus Christ.
And get
I don't
her
think
side
that
of
you
it.
should be like riddled with some kind of.
No, I feel like I've done enough good things in the past. I mean, this is what, 20 some odd years ago.
I mean, but that's fine. I'm sure you have done a lot of wonderful things, including Stand Up for Israel comedy tours.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that even aside from that, I mean, this is something that happened, over 2 decades ago, and you were young and fucked up too.
That's what Jake Shields says about the Holocaust.
No, really though. Like, yeah,
It's a long time ago.
I don't know. I don't think that you did. It wasn't like you were like a pimp of like 16-year-old girls. Like
No.
she was an adult.
Yeah.
And it's it's a fucked up, crazy story. But she was a grown person who made decisions. Also, you're saying she came from this like amazing family. I mean, well, what was she doing in a strip club trying to fuck you?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah, is he chopped liver? Exactly. Okay, we have to go. This was fantastic. I guess who's going to edit it? If you send it to me, I'll edit out his.
Well, I don't think you need to edit that out.
I'll edit out that word.
He was quoting. He was quoting another individual.
If you want us to edit it out, we will. Oh, I don't care. No, you're
Fine
say
with retard.
what? Say it closer to the mic. What you said? Maga retard? Is that what you said?
I'm fine with retard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's one word I don't say on stage anymore.
I had a joke with that word in it, but very quickly, the N word, obviously.
Yeah.
Very quickly,
Netanyahu.
learned not to say it, but
Yeah.
Okay, where we can find
AaronBerg.com. Aaron Berg like iceberg.com.
I'll be in Canada, and then got a tour with Brian Holtzman. I'll be at the Mothership. I'll be at Dallas. I will be at the Dojo. I'll be at Poughkeepsie. I'll be at the Stand. All around the place.
Okay. Good night,
Aaron
everybody.
Berg,
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That was fantastic.